So I've had a lot of people here recently who have been requesting my bread recipe. Y'all, I use this recipe for my homemade bread. I use it for hamburger buns, hot dog buns, any kind of buns that we may use. I also use it for cinnamon rolls. So it's very versatile. It's very interchangeable. And most of all, it's delicious. And it stays soft for quite a while. So I have a cup and a half of warm milk. I just put, not a cup and a half, a cup and a quarter. I just put this in the microwave, heat it up for about 45 seconds. So I'm going to put it in my bread machine, in the loaf pan. So there's that. I've got one egg. I'm just going to crack it into this bowl and just lightly, ever so lightly, I'm going to beat it. We're going to add that into our loaf pan and our bread machine. There we go. And then I need 2 tablespoons of butter. So the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of butter, but it says to use that butter for buttering the top. When I initially made this recipe, I didn't read it correctly, and I added this into my bread machine in with the dough. And y'all, it was a happy little surprise because I think it just makes the bread. So I always add it into my machine, and I've not had a failure rate with this bread yet. Like, not at all. And I keep unsalted butter on my countertop at all times so that I have softened butter whenever I need it. Then we're going to add a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. And you have to put these in the order that the recipe calls for, especially if you're using your bread machine. I need 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I always use the pink Himalayan. You can use whatever salt you want. And I'll just add. There we go. And then we're going to do 3 1/4 cups of bread flour. I'm sorry, 3 3/4 cups of bread flour. Y'all, my mind is running a million miles a minute today. So there's our 3/4. Now y'all may hear Aiden here in a minute. He is getting in some screen time in his room, which is right on the other side of the wall from the kitchen, and he's having the time of his life in there. All right, so there's 3. And then I need 1 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. I keep my yeast in the refrigerator in this little container, and y'all, it keeps for a long time. So there is half. There's 1, and then 1/4. And there he goes through the kitchen. Alright, so now we're going to shut the lid on our bread machine, and I'm going to set this on the dough setting, and we will have dough for our homemade bread in about an hour and a half. And there we go. Alright, our bread machine is done. So now I'm going to put me a little bit of flour out on my parchment paper here. About like that. And I am using the bread flour. And then, look at that. Can y'all see? So I'm going to punch that down. We're going to get this out. Get that on our parchment paper here. If you've got a rolling mat, please feel free to use that. I do not. So we're using the parchment paper. Alright. I'm going to get it all off of my... There we go. Get some of this flour on my hands, like so. And then we're just going to shape our dough into a ball, and I am just pulling it under and pushing it in on itself like that. There we go. So now I need my dough cutter. Alright, so here's my dough cutter. I'm going to cut this right down the middle. Well, what I see is the middle. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good. Alright, so there's that one. We're going to set that to the back. And we're going to work with this one. I'm going to do this one the same way. There we go. Now I'm just going to take my hands. We'll press it down. We'll flip it over. I'm going to do this side. And then I'm going to start rolling. There we go. Then we'll bring my pan over here. That one's ready to go in the loaf pan. Then we'll work with this one. Do it the same way. There we go. And then just roll. And I just try to even mine out all along the roll. And then our loaf pan, that one goes in. There we go. I've got a clean dish towel here, and I am going to put it over both of these, and we're going to plop these in the oven. My oven has a bread proof setting, so we're going to put these in the oven with the towel over them, and we're going to let them rise for an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, or until they are about an inch over the top. So now, I gotta clean up this mess.